snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys, so I am here today to do a joint review. I'm going to be reviewing book number 4, which is Heartless, and book number 5, which is Timeless, in the Parasole Protectorate series by Gail Carriger. But it will be non-spoiler, so don't worry. I love this series. It is so much fun, and I just think it's one of the best series out there. I suppose it's kind of a cross between steampunk and historical fiction, with a dash of kind of fantasy of manners and all sorts of things thrown into this series. But basically it's a really fun series about a young woman called Alexia, and she is in Victorian England in a world where there are vampires, there are werewolves, they're integrated into society, people get along with them fine. There's also ghosts, and she is a soulless, which basically means that she has no soul. In this world, to become a ghost, a vampire or a werewolf, you have to have excess soul when you die and then be changed into whatever you want to become. But Alexia has the opposite problem. She is preternatural and she has no soul, so when she touches a supernatural being, she kind of absorbs their soul and they become mortal again. So she's not really the sort of person that you want to cross if you're a vampire or a werewolf, but she's definitely not the sort of person you want to meet if you are a ghost, because she kind of acts like an exorcism. She basically can perform an exorcism on a ghost if she touches them, so crazy stuff. With that all being said, I know it sounds a little bit loopy, but this series has some of the best characterization and best characters I've ever encountered. It is absolutely wonderful, 100%. There are some fabulous characters whom I will never forget, even having finished up the series, and I love so many of the characters in this book. In fact, I think I would say all of the characters in these books are just incredibly well written. It did take me about 2 or 3 books to really get into the series, but by book number 4 and 5 I was loving it and loving the characters. I had a real connection with each of them, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the storyline of book 4 and 5 now. Book number 4, Heartless. I loved Heartless. It was so good, so good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really rare. That good. It was that good. I thought it was really well written. It was really interesting. The storyline definitely picked up a lot more. We'd already had the storyline sort of ramped up from book to book up to this point, but book 4 was really interesting, and I finished up the book and instantly bought book 5, so I think that's a sign of a good book for sure. So book number 4, Heartless, is once again the continuation of Alexia's storyline, but we have a lot more focus on our core group of characters. In some of the previous books we see our characters spread out in different places around the world. In this book they're mostly all together, which I really enjoyed. I loved seeing their interactions. They are a strange bunch of characters, but they are really humorous and entertaining to read about. We also have a few new additions to the group, a few new characters who we've only just recently met, and the introduction to them is fabulous. So the storyline of this book in particular focuses a lot on Biffy as well as Alexia. They both face their own trials, they both face their own problems. Biffy in particular is faced with something he never thought he'd have to deal with. He's unadjusted to his new life, he doesn't really know what to do with himself, and there's definitely a kind of sense of depression and things like that which are questioned a little bit in this book. Even though it doesn't go into it in a deep way, it does definitely hint at depression and sort of getting through hard times, which I really enjoyed. It felt like Biffy's one of those characters who's really sensitive, and he is just so wonderful to read about. He's really charming, really sweet, and I loved his character so much. Seeing his plight was definitely so sad and so heartbreaking for me, because he's definitely one of the favourite characters. He's probably one of the sweetest and most noble characters I've ever come across in a story, and that's a funny thing to say, but it's definitely a quality that I really enjoyed about him. As for Alexia being a preternatural, she's commanding, she's forbearing as ever, she's definitely in control of herself and her storyline by this point. She knows exactly what she wants and how she's going to get things. I definitely love seeing her character. She's a really fun female protagonist to read about. She absolutely owns anything she does. Every mistake she makes, she will completely deny it ever being a mistake, and she will always make her mistakes seem like it was intentional or seem like it was a perfect solution. She's just really funny, really engaging, and I love her. She's definitely unafraid to show that she loves food. She's happy being a character who everyone knows about and thinks is a little bit odd because she hangs out with the supernaturals and things like that, but she's really comfortable in her own skin and she loves who she is. So I loved seeing her and reading about someone who is so confident and enjoyable. By this point of the story as well, she's got a really loyal group of friends who I love to see her interact with, and she's always got someone who she can depend on. So at the beginning of this story, we have a kind of really weird, disjointed message that gets delivered to Alexia via a ghost, and we don't really know what's going on because we can't really understand, but we think there is some sort of plot to assassinate the Queen, which is never good. So Alexia and her various friends have to investigate, and the story basically goes from there, and it was so interesting. I found this to be by far the best one because the story was really, really intriguing. There were a lot of things going on and a lot of different personalities that shone through in this story, and we got to see a lot more of the investigative, curious, nosy side of Alexia, which was great because that's always fun. It's so easy to slip back into the world of these books. Once you're into this series, it's easy. It's like coming back to old friends, and it's really, really enjoyable. I also felt like the pacing and the action within this volume in particular was really, really good. I felt like it was so fast-paced and easy to get through, but it was still really detailed, and I felt like I knew the characters, I was with them, I was experiencing it all, and it was just really, really fun. This series is fantastic, gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I then went straight on to book number 5, which is Timeless, which is why I'm now going to talk about that one as well. So, Timeless, once again, follows all the same characters, but Alexia, as always, is the main character, and in this one she's been summoned to go to Egypt. She becomes embroiled in a mystery surrounding a dead werewolf, a plague, and a skin stealer. I think that one of the most interesting things about Timeless was the journeying to Egypt and what happened when they went to Egypt. I really, really enjoyed it. I always enjoy when we see another culture. I felt like it was very convincingly Egypt, and it was really interesting to see the sort of Elizabethan reactions. We saw Alexia and Lord Macon go over to Egypt in this one, which was really, really interesting because they were investigating what was going on, but equally we are also following Professor Lyle and Biffy back at home, and their storyline was just as interesting. Professor Lyle and Biffy, oh my gosh, each of them is an incredible character in their own right. They are just so sweet. Professor Lyle is fantastic. I love his quirk, and he's funny and he's engaging, and he always knows what to do in whatever sticky situation you get into. Lord Macon is also really fun. He's very dominating, he's very set in his own ways and very stubborn, which is why Alexia and he clash a lot, and it's a lot of fun to see the two of them whenever they're arguing or having a laugh, because they do both and they do a lot of both, and it's really, really enjoyable. Lord Akeldama is fantastic. I really, really enjoyed Lord Akeldama as a character. He's just so cool and so sweet and so nice, even though he tries to put up this sort of very fashionista exterior, hard shell. He is actually a softie underneath it all, and he's really, really nice to Alexia and a great friend to her. And I would say that Ivy Hisselpenny really comes into her own. I had some great moments where I absolutely adored seeing Ivy come into her own, stand up for herself, start to do her own things and take the initiative. She was really developed over the course of this book and the last one, and I loved that. I also absolutely adored the introduction of Prudence. Prudence is a fantastic character, so interesting, definitely throws a hammer into the works and twists the story around from what I thought it was going to be, but I loved it. It was incredible. The whole series is great as a series, but these last 2 books were just utterly my favourites by far. I instantly went and bought Prudence straight after this because Prudence is the next book in the Custard Protocol series, which is a follow-on series. So I will be reading Prudence at some point for sure. I'm definitely excited about it, but I really loved the Parasole Protectorate series, and I gave Timeless a 5 out of 5 stars as well. It was awesome and I loved it. So yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on the whole of the Parasole Protectorate series, whether you're just starting it, whether you want to start it, whether you've read it and you loved it. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all very, very soon in another video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little chat about books.